So here's the secret to shooting at any time of day, and it's not as simple as shooting at golden hour. You can shoot at any time of the day if you know how. I think it's really cool to understand these tips because if you're anything like me, sometimes I have too much to shoot that I can cram into that tiny little window of golden hour, which in reality normally isn't even actually an hour. So understanding these techniques means you can shoot whenever you want throughout the day. Let's start with everyone's favorite though, golden hour. Now, this obviously happens twice a day, before sunset and after sunrise, but you pretty much have this like early golden hour window where the sun is still kind of high in the sky, but it's still creating that really nice and soft golden light with the sun shining onto everything, creating interesting shadows and really vibrant colors. As the sun moves closer to the horizon, the effects just get amplified. The colors look gorgeous as Mother Nature puts on this show, and you shouldn't have any issues capturing some really beautiful shots. Take note, you pretty much have two options here. The first being you can shoot into the light and actually have that sun behind your subject, creating a really nice hazy backlit style shot. Really like doing this when I have some sort of a subject like a person. You can get that light flare, lightly kind of look with the subject being quite washed out and the golden colors coming in from that sun behind. Or you can swap it around and have the sun actually behind camera shining straight onto your subject. Still gonna create really nice soft light, but it's gonna fill in all those shadows, not having any of that haze, and everything's gonna look quite a lot more saturated and contrasty. It's up to you where you wanna kind of lean on this. You can do both in the same shoot, but understanding you can either look into the sun or look straight away from it is going to give you two very different looks at the same time of day. By the way, if you guys want to learn like way more in depth about filmmaking, I actually have an entire filmmaking course and it's on discount right now. If you guys want to find out anything more and really get to know everything about filmmaking all in one structured little curriculum, it's going to be linked in the top of my description. It's really amazing. Everyone that gets it leaves really positive reviews, and I'm sure you guys will be happy with the outcome of just like upgrading your skills. So check it out in the top of the description if it's something you're interested in. Next, you have this tiny window of like actual sunset, either as the sun says goodbye and goes behind that horizon, or as the sun is saying hello if you manage to wake up for your alarm and you're on a sunrise shoot. Happens to me all the time. But there's this very small window where the colors really start to pop now. All of the oranges, reds, and yellows in the sky and in those clouds really becomes vibrant and amazing. This is a very small window and you're gonna have to kind of just cram everything you want for the specific sunset style shots into a very short period of time, so good luck. Now is probably a good time to take your ND filter off as the light gets lower, and remember to keep an eye on your ISO. If you have a camera that can shoot in something like S-Log3 or a much flatter picture profile, there's going to be a huge advantage, so your dynamic range is higher and you can most likely get both of them somewhat exposed correctly. Now we go into what's known as blue hour. This happens just after the sun sets or before it rises, where we still have some really nice lingering light, still lighting things up, but the night sky hasn't turned completely black yet. We get this really wonderful deep blue color, hence the name, blue hour. And with this deep blue, we get this soft, really ultra dreamy look with like no light being cast on anything. Everything is super evenly exposed and it looks wonderful. With all of this deep blue light, it's also very complementary to your skin tones and any face that you might be shooting. Remember, take your ND filters off. If you are lucky enough to have a camera that has dual native ISO, this is probably a good time to push it up. If you're on something like the A7S III, you can bump it to its second one being 12,800 and make sure that you're going to be able to capture a lot more of the very little light that is left in this blue hour. Now we get to the tricky ones, because thus far these have all been ideal lighting conditions to shoot in. But what happens when you actually have to shoot something in that really harsh midday sunlight? The sun is going to be coming straight down, making everything look really sharp and unflattering for faces, and no really nice colors. Everything kind of just looks oversaturated and too contrasty. But when we're in a pinch, there are still some tricks that we can do to make sure that we are making the most of this kind of unflattering harsh light. First thing is, get the face of your subject into some form of a shadow. You can do this by placing the sun slightly behind them, although it is overhead. Maybe it isn't directly overhead and you can have the sun cast onto the back of the head rather than the actual face. This gives the face a bit more of a softer light with it being in shadow. If this isn't possible, maybe the sun is directly above you, try and find some sort of shadows in your environment. Maybe you are between some buildings, maybe you are next to a cliff, maybe you just find a little tree that you can sit under. By creating that shadow onto your face, it's not going to have that really harsh light, especially coming from the top, casting shadows, making you look like a weird raccoon. It's not a good look. So your first priority is to somehow put your subject into a shadow. Lastly, we can shoot in actual darkness at nighttime. There's a couple of ways that I like to do this, and although I don't do it very often, I have learned some key techniques for when I have done it. The main thing being that you're gonna need some sort of external light source. Whether you're bringing your own lights along, which is not really always an option, it's kind of a mission, but you can find light in your environment. Maybe you're in a busy city, you want to find a street where there's lots of shop fronts, neon lights lighting everything up. Maybe you're around a bonfire scene and you can use that fire to light up your subject, just filling them in. Maybe you have a little lantern, like in these shots right here, and that's also just going to fill it in. This is going to kind of be essential that you have a camera with a really high ISO. Hopefully it's full frame, and if you're really lucky, it's a Sony, because we all know Sonys are way better in low light. Bump your ISO up to that second native one, being 12,800 on the A7S III, and give yourself the best chance to actually capture the non-existent light that is left in the middle of the night. Also make the most of your fastest lens with the lowest f-stop, so you're letting in any of the light that is actually there. So I hope that helps. Next time you're shooting at any time of day, remember, if you want to find out a whole bunch more about filmmaking, check out my full filmmaking course, linked down below. Have fun. Bye.